고릴라가 무료 배포 중입니다. 약 13만원 꿀템이에요. 구매 시 쿠폰을 입력하면 됩니다. 베이스 앰프예요. 시티팝, 가요, 밴드 음악 하시는 분들이 사용하면 좋습니다. 프리앰프, 어마운트 등을 조절해 원하는 베이스 사운드 메이킹이 가능해요. 초보자 강추입니다. 다운받는 법은 더보기에 있어요. 모두 베이스2가 75% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
Below that, we have our crossover points, because essentially this has three sections within it. We have our treble, mid, and bass. So right here, this is our crossover frequency for the mid and treble, and we can change this with this knob right here. Below this is our crossover point for the bass and mid right here, okay? And then below that, we can actually add a lower and higher octave to the bass sound by simply increasing these knobs here. And these are percentage knobs, so you're going to be using them as mix knobs so you can kind of blend in those octaves to your liking. Now looking at the middle section here, starting with the preamp, this is where you choose your bass tone. So this first dot here, which turns green when you select it, this is the Fender Super Bassman tube amplifier. The second dot here, which turns yellow, is the Angular Tone Hammer TH500. And lastly, this dot when you select it turns red. This is the Ampeg Heritage SVT CL tube amplifier. CL stands for classic. So in this tutorial / review here, when we're actually testing this on the bass track in this song, we're going to end up using the
HD딜레이가 80% 할인 중입니다. 불프 최저가예요. 불프 이벤트 중입니다. 3개 사면 49.99달러, 6개 사면 99.98달러예요. 빅마할 때 쓰기 좋은 꿀템입니다. 입체적이고 풍성한 사운드 많을 때 쓰기 좋아요. 보컬, 기타, 베이스 등 다양한 악기에 사용할 수 있습니다. 웨이브스 울티메이트 1년 구독 20% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
Go on and make my day.
Right, next we have the top here, so you can top the BPM or the parts depending where you are here, and you can also set modulation. Let's hear how that sounds. I'm gonna do without and with.
Go on and make my day. Go on and make my day.
Very cool. And then we have the filters. We have high pass, we have low pass, and we can control what is being affected by this plugin. And finally, we also have, of course, dry wet output volume here. And then we have the analog selector, which I already covered. So let's hear how this sounds with, with the piano here. So you can see that we can get some very cool effects. And now I'm gonna...
FabFilter Pro-L2가 25% 할인 중입니다. 불프 최저가예요. 레아 믹마 꿀템입니다. 마스터링 음악 부를 때 쓰면 좋아요. 간단한 조작으로 댐핑감 있는 사운드를 만들 수 있습니다. 레벨이 부족한 악기에 걸면 꿀이에요. FabFilter 불프 세일이 최대 25% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
But they can cause that pumping effect. On the other hand, long attack times and short release times can increase apparent loudness and presence at the expense of possible distortion. So next we have channel linking. I'm not sure when I would need to use this, but basically when you are limiting a stereo signal, you generally want to process both channels the same way. If for some reason you have a short peak in one channel, so you have a peak in the right channel and not the left channel, you can remove it in only the channel where it occurs. So you can change this behavior with these channel linking knobs. If this is the case, where you have a peak in one channel and not the other, then FabFilter suggests choosing less than 100% for this transients knob, and then starting at 100% for this release knob, and then decreasing it or changing it up or down depending on how it affects your sound. So once again, I wouldn't really get bogged down with these knobs, and I would just leave them alone. Over on the right-hand side, we have the metering. The first button is TP for True Peak Metering. If you have True Peak Limiting activated, then you'll want to have True Peak Metering activated so that you can read the maximum peaks of your audio. Let me show you how this works. If I turn off True Peak Limiting, then True Peak Metering is going to show us that there are peaks going above the output level. See, it's in the red.
멜로다인 5 스튜디오 업그레이드가 55% 할인 중입니다. 불프 최저가예요. 레알 보컬 미싱 꿀템입니다. 보컬 튠 잡을 때 좋습니다. 코드 따거나 베이스 확인할 때 사용해도 좋아요. 샘플링 하시는 분들이 써도 꿀입니다. 멜로다인 불프 세일이 최대 80% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
Of audio. So the blobs, that just means there's audio there. That is sound. That's your vocal track. The line, that is going to be the vowel sounds, and the line is the pitch of that audio. But then this right here, these little vertical lines, that's actually a consonant sound, like a t, p, one of those sounds that doesn't have a pitch to it. In previous versions of Melodyne, you used to have to chop these off because you can't tune that, and then you'd have to tune the vocals here. Melodyne 5, though, they fixed that problem, and this does recognize the consonant. So you actually can just grab this in any 5th generation Melodyne plugin, and you can just come up to the macro slider and just change the pitch, and then you could probably just change the pitch drift too. Boom, it's tuned up. So let's go ahead and just play that. Me and you down in Bermuda. Done. So that's how you tune vocals extremely fast in Melodyne, but that's more of an auto-tune approach. This program lets you get way deeper into it. So if you want to change an individual note and fine-tune anything, you just come here to the pitch tool and grab this, and you can basically drag this note wherever you want it to go. I like it right here.
넥타르 포 엘리먼츠가 40% 할인 중입니다. 불프 최저가요. AI 믹마 꿀템입니다. 버튼만 누르면 최저가는 레벨링을 도와줘요. 유튜브, 방송, 보컬, 랩 녹음하시는 분들이 간편하게 쓰기 좋은 플러그인입니다. iZotope 불프 세일이 최대 85% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
You can never take the blame. Meet me halfway now.
Okay, so Vocal Assistant has analyzed our vocal sample. Before I get into the controls in front of us, let's take a look at what's happening while Vocal Assistant is analyzing the part. It follows a specific series of steps to prepare and process the vocal. First step is preliminary analysis. It analyzes the vocal signal to look for specific characteristics that will influence or determine the type of processing applied. After the initial analysis, then Vocal Assistant applies a basic character EQ curve and dynamic setting. And this is based on a combination of our selections for vibe and intensity, along with the vocal analysis in step 1. Next, Vocal Assistant determines the register and range of our vocal in order to optimize pitch correction and calibrate the pitch correction settings. After register analysis, Vocal Assistant determines the subtractive EQ parameters to improve vocal clarity. Basically, at this point, Vocal Assistant is listening to the timbre and character of the vocal part and choosing specific frequency bands that will improve clarity without removing or affecting key frequency ranges for a particular voice. Next, we have sibilance, and at this point, Vocal Assistant looks for sibilance and applies cutoff frequencies and threshold for de-essing if required. And after sibilance, we come to dynamics, where Vocal Assistant applies dynamics for a controlled output using compression settings that enhance the control.
복스포드 인플레이터가 81% 할인 중입니다. 불프 최저가요. 레어 믹마 꿀템입니다. 간단한 조작으로 사운드를 더 풍성하게 만들 수 있어요. K-팝, R&B, 로파이, 시티팝 등 다양한 장르에 사용 가능합니다. 소녹스 불프 세일이 최대 90% 할인 중입니다. 저렴할 때 득템하세요.
Very, very subtle. When you switch it out, you really do notice the difference. Back in. It's a very pleasing effect, and it just cuts things through the mix. I've got here a 0 dB clip button. Now with it on, the red overload LEDs will behave as they should. They'll come on and show overloading at 0 dB. With it off, you can use it more as an effect. It will saturate, it will sound